Rules aren't meant to be broken. They're meant to be rewritten altogether. If you're ready to play by your own rules, if you are a rebel with a cause, I think you'll love it here. Bring a friend, sit back, and enjoy another episode. Or don't. Remember, you write the rules here. Hello, my love. You are now tuned in to another episode of Rima's Rules. I am reporting to you today from the eye of the storm. Life is very chaotic right now. Let's just put it that way. And one thing you learn very quickly when you start doing some mindset work and manifesting and really getting clear on the kind of life that you want and setting these intentions is that your life does not get easier. You just get better. Honestly, I worked all day today on my mood. Like, I wasn't in the best mood, and normally I think I would have just leaned all the way into it, probably turned on TV, ordered food, and just let myself spiral into more negative feelings until it was time to sleep. And then for me, sleeping is kind of like an automatic reset button. So is showering. And then the next day I would probably wake up in a way better mood. But I worked really, really, really hard today on trying to reframe some of the thoughts that I was having. And now, with the help of this little friend right here, I am in a great mood. I felt very called to talk about intuition because that is genuinely what makes it so much more simple. I don't want to say easy, but so much more simple to reframe the things that are happening to you or reframe the way that you're thinking about the things that are happening to you. Because if you believe that there's something happening in your favor, it's a lot easier for you to kind of withstand some of the things that feel super challenging. It took me years and years and years, honestly, like over 2 decades of my life to learn how to listen to my intuition. And I just want you to know that it doesn't matter how much you ignore her, she is not going to give up on you. There's always going to be that feeling, that kind of tug in the back of your mind, urging you to come back and listen. I just wish that I learned this so much earlier. And for me personally, the biggest shift happened when we track the way that I felt about the statement, everything happens for a reason. This was something that everyone used to say growing up, and it's a cliche statement that we've all heard. And it used to piss me off. Like, I genuinely used to get mad because I felt like it was so naive, it was so ridiculous, and the way that I used to remix it was everything doesn't happen for a reason. We could just always find a reason to justify the way things happened the way they did, or we could always find a reason to explain retrospectively why things worked out better. Now, I don't disagree with that either. I actually think both things can be true. I actually don't see them as mutually exclusive. But what I was really trying to express at the time was that I believed everything needed to be rationalized and I needed to understand why everything played out the way it did because I was the one that was controlling all of those things. So there was just a lot of logic involved in something that to me now is much more spiritual and emotional. I was super logical. I just really, really, really valued logic a lot more than emotion. And I actually think that's one of my favorite things about me now that I have injected more of a spiritual and emotional lens is I have a very, very, very healthy balance. And you might see it even in the way I talk about certain topics between my heart and my logic. Like, they both really work together at this point in my life. But at that time, I just was not open to the idea that something spiritually could be guiding why things are happening the way they do, and that even if it doesn't make sense to you, there's a greater purpose behind all of it. And sometimes we're not supposed to know in that moment. So today I want to kind of talk you through 3 rules that I've learned in becoming more familiar with that voice that was already there. So let's kick it off with rule number 1. How you feel tells you everything that you need to know. And again, this is for my logical baddies who want to understand exactly why they make every single decision that they make. If you are just leaning on how to rationalize things, then you can only depend on the way that you previously thought about things. You cannot kind of open yourself up to a new way of doing things because you're only going to be able to draw from the same logical flow that you've used to make other decisions that have gotten you to this place. So it's kind of illogical in an ironic way. It's illogical to only lean on logic because that's what got you here. There was a very clear phase in my life where I just had to depend on how things felt. And it really coincided with my grief process in 2017 that I talk about a lot on here, which is when my dad passed away. And I just was going through a lot of other transitions in life. And I no longer could lean on me rationalizing all of my decisions. Like there were certain relationships that were sucking the life out of me, but I did not know that. I just knew I didn't feel good around certain people. There were certain decisions or career opportunities or whatever that were not making me feel good. And then conversely, there were other things that were making me feel good and they felt very aligned, but I just couldn't explain these things in words. And the previous version of me would have passed up on what was actually right for me because I couldn't rationalize it. Like if I couldn't exactly explain to someone else why I was doing what I was doing, and if it didn't make sense to me, or even worse, to someone else, it would make me feel like I'm doing the wrong thing. I was constantly afraid of being wrong or doing the wrong thing. And at that time, I just couldn't afford to care. Like genuinely, I felt like a plant that was dying, like withering away, and I needed to water it with good feelings. And so I needed to snip any weeds that were like sucking that good feeling out of me. That's what I did. And the craziest thing is when I say that the feeling tells you everything that you need to know, here's how you'll know what your intuition sounds like. Your intuition will give you relief even in the most uncomfortable decisions. There are things that you are probably considering right now, whether it's relationships that have reached a dead end or an opportunity or maybe moving to a random state or random city that feel very uncomfortable. It probably feels terrifying to break up with that person that you've known all your life or to move on from a friendship that you've known since you were a child. But if you envision yourself doing that thing and you feel a sense of relief, that's your intuition. When you could feel relief in extreme discomfort, that is your intuition telling you it's okay. Just take that first step and I got you. Just take that first step and trust me. And the other way I find is true as well. There are a lot of things that feel very comfortable to us, that feel very familiar to us, but there's this like feeling of uneasiness or sickness in your stomach. And that is your intuition telling you, please, please do something different. Please don't lean on what you already know. Please don't go back to that person just because they're comfortable and you know what's predictable. There's this uneasiness letting you know that the predictable and the familiar is not going to take you where you said that you want it to go. So the feeling is all that you need to know. Rule number 2 is that God will reward your bravery. This is something I've been working on a lot lately because I have been somebody in the past that was extremely attached to predictability, which again makes sense because it's the whole rationalizing. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. So let me just lean on 1 + 1 because I know what it's going to get me, even if I've decided that what it's going to get me is not enough. Now that I'm somebody who is really channeling this future version of myself, I actually started this thing earlier this year where I channel her and she writes to me, which is like such an amazing, amazing tool that I highly recommend because it kind of like pushes you to embody the energy that you would imagine that person would embody. And she has such interesting things to tell me, but it helps me tap into my intuition that I have today because the only difference between me and the 10-year from now version of me is the decisions I made along the way. Inside, I'm still the same person. Like she still has the same essence. This version of me would have just chose to do things differently to become her. And so when you get really clear on where you want to go, God will start putting opportunities in front of you that seem very scary. And this kind of goes back to number 1, where it's like your intuition is the feeling of relief when you start envisioning yourself doing that scary thing. And it's not just about fear. Like there's some opportunities that are going to pop up when you tell God what you want and who you want to be. Like when you really put that intention out there, there are some random, super freaking random opportunities that will pop up and just kind of wink at you and invite you to just try them out, even if it doesn't make sense. So I'll give you a weird example. I put on my vision board, among other things, a picture of a woman weightlifting, like lifting heavy weight. And I do F45, but I don't do the kinds of weights that were in the picture. So even like as I was putting it, I'm like, why am I putting this? I'm not doing this right now, but I'm like, whatever, this is what I want. I want to be a gym baddie. Like I want to be a girl in the gym lifting heavy weights. And all this year, I did not take any action towards that other than continuing to go to F45, but I knew that that wasn't the image that I put on my vision board. I knew that that wasn't the same. Out of nowhere, the other day, this was like a month ago, I was scrolling on Instagram and saw this trainer that lives in LA who's training all of these influencers and like just does amazing work. Like I really, really like the work that he does. And part of what he does is has them on the kinds of weights that I put on my vision board. And I looked at his Instagram and he does not take one-on-one clients. Like there was no link for me to apply for one-on-one in-person coaching. He just has like a digital online program. But I just DM'd him anyway, like, hey, I'm really looking for an in-person LA trainer, da 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 da. He responded trying to funnel me into his online program. I responded again, like, I love your work. I've done online programs and that's just not what I'm looking for. Right now, I'm actually really ready for an in-person coach. So let me know if you're down or if you know anyone that you can recommend. And he like sent me a link right after that for a one-on-one call. And he was just telling me like, I don't usually do this, but I just want to hear more about what you want and da 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 da. What's your budget? And now I'm working with him. Like literally as soon as I go back home, because I'm still overseas, I am working with him just because I decided to be crazy and DM him and be like, I don't know if you offer this, but here I am. And not to say that like, this isn't even a self-worth thing. This is more so me just telling you this because this is how the universe works. I look at all the girls that he trains and they're all like celebrity influencers. I am the outlier, but I don't care. Like in my mind, I'm like, I don't care. This was on my vision board and now look where I'm at now. So stay tuned for that because I'm hoping to document some of my content with him. But other examples include like people in LA who I admire, people online who I admire, who I've just shot my shot with. And we've become friends. Like we've gone out to eat. We've literally built a friendship outside of social media just because I felt brave enough to put myself out there and actually be like, you know what the heck? What's the worst that could happen? And there are other things that don't seem as positive that I don't really feel very comfortable talking about now, but hopefully we'll be able to keep you posted on that. I'm being very brave in this season. Let's just put it that way. Like this is my brave season right now. And I really liken this feeling to what I imagine it would be like to jump out of a plane and just pray for the moment that the parachute opens so that you could enjoy the view and the ride down and have it be soft and slow and beautiful. Right now, I'm still waiting for the parachute to open. So I will keep you posted. If you just suddenly see me disappear off of YouTube, you know that that parachute never opened. But that has never happened to me before, figuratively, okay? To give you a less freaky metaphor, this is my cocoon phase. I'm in the cocoon. I can't see. Like I can't see anything outside of this dark space that I'm in. But this dark space has been uniquely designed with one purpose. And that purpose is for me to grow into something beautiful that has these new, beautiful, brand new wings that are going to help me fly and fulfill my purpose as a gorgeous butterfly. It does require some bravery and oftentimes some extreme discomfort to get to the other side and actually enjoy what was designed for you. Rule number 3 is that your intuition does not get stronger. You just get more discerning. I learned this lesson the hard way when I found my intuition and then I thought I lost it. So I found it, like I said, in 2017, actually before my dad passed away and before I started my grief process, which I think was genuinely God sent, the timing. I started seeing these signs. I started really feeling like me and God were having this beautiful relationship and beautiful, two-way conversation. And that meant a lot to me because growing up with a religious community, I kind of felt like I wasn't good enough for God for the majority of my life. It's not like anyone ever told me that, but there's just so much messaging around shame where I felt like if I wasn't being perfect all the time, then I shouldn't hit him up. It's kind of like that one person in your life, whether it's a parent figure or a friend, who's very judgmental and you don't want to call them when you're struggling through something because you're scared they're going to judge you. That was the image I got of God in my head growing up, which is so unfortunate. It's one of the things I really, really, really want to teach my kids the opposite of, is that God will never judge you. And I learned that way too late. And I think I just was desperate at that point in my life. So I'm like, you know what? If he judges me, he judges me. I still need someone to talk to. And I don't want to just keep leaning on people in my life. Like I need something that feels more spiritual. So God really showed out. Like it was like I just hit him up one time and then I just got this inundation of beautiful signs and guidance. And I just felt so amazing during that phase of my life. So much so that when my dad passed away suddenly, I felt I was being carried throughout that whole thing. And I really attribute that to finding that guidance and that intuition before he passed away. And that was kind of the muscle that got me through that period of time without even sinking into depression. Like, I really felt like that period of time, as sad and devastating as it was riddled with so much gratitude at the same time. Then fast forward 2019. I don't know if I just started feeling myself too much. Like, the grief was kind of like coming to, I don't want to say coming to an end because it never does, but it wasn't as intense a couple years later as it was in those first 2 years, that I started trying to tap back into my logical, rational way of thinking. And it got really sad for me because I felt like I was trying to force everything. And I was no longer leaning on the thing that got me through the hardest period of my life. I was actually leaning on the thing that I had grown up leaning on. And it just didn't feel good anymore. And so for that period of my life, I felt very lost. I felt like I couldn't see 2 steps ahead of me, which was very uncomfortable. If you've ever taken like a strengths test, I took this amazing strengths test in college called StrengthsFinder. My number one strength, and I've taken it several times since, it stayed the same, was futuristic. So I felt like my superpower just shut off for like over a year. It's kind of like the thing that is your instinct being taken away from you. And when I really think back to what that time period was, I just stopped trusting my intuition. That's really all it is. I stopped trusting it. And it was trying to talk to me, and I felt it trying to talk to me, but like I didn't want to listen to what it was saying. So my life was feeling so resistant during that time because I'm having this voice that I'd learned to lean on, trying to pull me in one direction, but me just say, no, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way because this is the way that I think makes the most sense. I faced a lot of like career rejection during that year. I faced a lot of like trials and tribulations with my personal life and people that I loved during that year. And the worst part about it is not the external things that happened, because like I just mentioned, life doesn't get easier, you just get better. I just didn't have any meaning behind why any of it was happening. I felt like I had no way to explain why all these things were happening. And so this whole, like, everything happens for a reason just disappeared for that time period. I could not fathom or reason why any of those things were happening. Fast forward to right now. Like I said, I've jumped out of the plane and I'm waiting for the parachute to open. And it's not fun. Like, I would liken a lot of the things that are happening right now in my life to the intensity of what was happening in 2019. These things are not easier by any stretch of the imagination. However, the difference between the version of me who's talking to you now and the version of me then is I do feel like everything happens for a reason. So I can analyze these things through this lens, not of like rationalizing them necessarily, but of trying to ask myself, if this all works out for me, what is this challenging thing here for? Like, what is the purpose behind it? Assuming that everything in life works out for my favor, which is something that I do believe, no matter what, like, I'm not attached to how things play out anymore, but I just know that I'm going to end up on top because I trust life that much and I trust myself that much. So how can I reframe the way that I'm looking at this challenging moment through the lens of it actually helping me? And when you start to be open to that, when you start to just open yourself up and be like, I might not like the way these things feel, but I understand that I don't know best and that things are actually working out in my favor, there are such interesting signs and synchronicities that you'll start to see. When I started doing this in my early 20s, I have the craziest stories of the ways that I believe God protected me from like the most toxic relationships in life. Like, I'll have to do a video on those stories at some point because they're so funny. And I genuinely, my logical brain, I think that the way God works with me, someone like me who's skeptical, is giving me these undeniable signs that there is just no other way to rationalize other than me and God are having an inside joke. Like, we have an inside joke. Everyone else is going to think I'm crazy. But I asked for this sign and here it is in my face and there's no way for me to deny it. Now that I've learned to trust God and trust my intuition so much more, the signs have become way less ridiculous, but still just as obvious to me and still just as clear. And I'm just so thankful that at this phase of my life, I'm discerning enough to understand that even when things feel terrible, they're getting better. Even when things feel terrible, even when, you're driving and the road feels really rocky and things, you're getting car sick or you feel like you don't like the music that's playing, you're still getting to your destination in the best way possible. That is what it has been for me to learn to trust my intuition. It is such a humbling but beautiful way of life where you just really are kind of in this surrender mode, which is very difficult for someone like me. Don't get me wrong. Like today was a full surrender day. Like I literally, once I was walking up to this couch to record this, I'm like, the most productive thing that I did today was get in a good mood. And I don't even mean that like jokingly. Like that was how hard of work I put into my mood right now. It was hard work. And the only way that I could get here is by trusting that things are working out for me. I just want you to try that. Like if you're going through a hard time right now, regardless of what's going on in your life, try to look at your situation through the lens of this is actually saving me from something. Oh my God, I'm being protected from something and I don't even know what. Like how cool is that? It might not make things sting less or hurt less or be less sad, but there's just, you feel like you're being supported. And I think that's the key word here is support. You are so much stronger than you think you are when you accept and know that you are being supported and that you are being guided. You are so much more resilient than you ever would expect if you knew that someone or something had your back. I do think a misconception that a lot of people have when it comes to identity shifting and reality creation is like they envision this person on their vision board and they very naively assume that the person that they've envisioned, whether it's their year from now self or 5 year from now self, doesn't have any of the problems that this current version of them has. Yeah, this 1 year from now version of myself found her man and so she's just happy all the time because that's what's missing from my life. Or in my case, like I'm losing weight. And once I get to that body, I'm never going to feel insecure. Like in a dressing room, I'm going to be like obsessed with dressing rooms all of a sudden. I genuinely had to have a talk with myself. Like, girl, there's still going to be stuff you try on that you don't feel looks good on you. Like these problems don't just disappear. Stop romanticizing. Well, keep romanticizing. Stop glorifying what's on your vision board. So much so that when you do get there, you're just devastated at the fact that those problems don't all go away. You just change the way that you look at them. What ends up happening in this space between you and your future self is not that the problems disappear, it's that you develop the capacity to approach them with so much resilience and strength and perspective. Don't sleep on perspective, okay? It is so much easier to cultivate resilience and strength when you have perspective. Oh, man. I'm all for the environment and everything, but these straws that get super flimsy after you drink them for 5 minutes are not it. Like, they're just not it. I don't know who I need to talk to about it, but these straws are not it. One thing that I like to do, and I think I will be doing more of, is speaking to you from the perspective, like I said, of the eye of the storm. I think a lot of our content on here, just naturally, comes from the perspective of the person who conquered the thing, went through it, reflected on the lessons they learned, and then came back to speak to people who are in it. And I think that's amazing. And I don't think we are owed or entitled to someone documenting their struggle. However, as someone who understands that things are only going to get better from here, this is me documenting my struggle. Like if you look at the past couple months of my videos, you'll see I've been struggling. I might carry it well and I might look cute while I'm doing it, but I'm struggling right now. Like, I don't even want to affirm that. I am going through a transformation, which is another way of saying I am struggling and deeply uncomfortable. I have just learned to hold it and look at it in a completely different way. And it is because I'm at a place where I am connected with my intuition. I know that the future version of me is impressed with me. She's proud of herself, for sure. She looks in the mirror and she's proud of herself. But who she's most proud of is me. The version of her that was in the cocoon and could not see outside of it, had no idea what was about to happen for her life, but just trusted that things would get better. You are the most impressive version of you to date. The version of you right now who has no clue what's about to happen for her. The version of you right now who doesn't feel good, wakes up feeling a little low or depressed, but still pushes throughout your day and insists on being Delulu enough to believe in herself. That's the impressive version of you. The one who has everything that she wants is impressive, but it's just so much easier to have that belief when you have the evidence in front of you that your life is working out. And I do want to say, at any given point in your life, regardless what your circumstances are, if you want to find evidence that things are working out, you can, and you will. But if you want to find evidence that everything sucks, you definitely will. So I just want to put that out there. Like you, even the version of yourself that maybe doesn't like where your life is at, you can wake up every single day and decide that you are being supported. And not only will you start to take notice of all the ways that you are supportive, you will begin to snowball and attract more things that show that you are supported. I just want you to try it and let me know. And I just want to leave you with, your intuition will never abandon you, ever. Ever. She will never abandon you, so start talking to her. If you like this video, bring a friend with you next time. Let's leave people even more powerful than we found them. I love you so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.